Okay, welcome back to my Lotus Bob's Garage channel. Let's recap where we are. This is part 3 of the speedometer repair for the E-Type Jag. I'm going to recap what the deal is. I have a 1963 XKE E-Type fixed head coupe that came from Italy. So the speedometer is in kilometers. Okay? I've never seen a car that has the kilometer speedometer. If I was just going to try to replace it because it wasn't working right, I could find a whole bunch of the 160 mile per hour ones that I could replace it with. But I want to make sure that the 260 kilometer unit works. And the problem is that the trip odometer increments, but the odometer doesn't. Now this is a used one that I bought online that I'm going to use to try to figure out what's going on. So when I first opened up the 260 kilometer unit, I looked in the back of it and I said, wow, it looks like there's a gear missing. And I thought, well, that must be the problem. There's a gear missing, so I just got to try to figure out what's going on with that. And I kind of left it at that, and so drove the car for many years with presuming that there was a missing gear. And if you look at this one here, this is the used one. Red gear and another red gear. If I open up the back of the 260 kph one, there's only one gear. It's a black gear, but only one. So I thought, okay, that's what I got to do. I got to get a gear. Well, when I took this speedometer apart here, I know I'm giving you a lot of backstory here, but this is out of my a spare TR6 speedometer. And when I took it apart and I looked at the back of it, it only had one gear. So I looked at that and I thought, well, geez, what's going on? Maybe the whole thing works with just one gear and there's something internally that's messed up. See, this is the inside of the TR6 unit, and it has one gear, not two. Yet this one, they both work. This one, the Jag one, has two gears and they both work. But when I opened up the 260 kilometer one, remember, you can just twist the front bezel and take it off. And then there's two screws on the back. Take those two screws out. And once you get those two screws out, the unit will come out through the front. And another reason that I want to make sure that I use this one, it's the original one, of course, but it's in really good shape. When I first took it apart, I said, okay, let's see what's going on here. Come on, you. Okay, there it comes out. And I looked and I said, okay, one gear, no gear. So when I saw that it didn't have that other gear, I thought, well, that's why it doesn't work. And sure enough, the trip odometer works, the odometer doesn't work. Well, now that I have a functioning Jaguar speedometer, and I noticed that it has two gears, then turns out that I was right all along. It's missing a gear. So I need to find a replacement gear. Now, the gear in the kph has 20 teeth. The gear in the 160 mile per hour has 32 teeth. And you might say, well, why do they have different numbers of teeth? Why is that significant? And if you do the math, then you realize that it's significant because of the difference between kilometers and miles per hour, and that the number of teeth would correspond to the number of rotations that would happen of the speedometer cable to move the dials, etc. So what I need to do is I need to get a gear that is 20 teeth so that I can put it back together, put the correct gear in. So let's take a look for a minute at what goes on inside of a speedometer. So I've hooked up a power drill and a speedometer cable to the back side of this one here. And when you run the drill in anti-clockwise, as they would say in Britain, in the anti-clockwise direction, you can see that speedometer cable's a little bit kinked. It's an old one, but as you can see, the trip odometer is incrementing, and in a little bit you'll see the mile per hour one go up. And it won't necessarily go up at, when the trip odometer gets to 0. It'll go up when it feels it needs to go. But if we watch it for just a moment here, you'll see that it'll go from 456 to 457, and then when it does, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like when we, on the back side, and you see the gears moving and how that works. I'll just let it go for a little bit more. So if you've got a bouncing speedometer needle like that, for example, the real reason absolutely is that you've got a bent speedometer cable. Okay, so now you see that both dials have gone up. So let me just adjust this little stand here so that we can see what's going on the back side when these things are working. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in if I can and see if we can get a better. Oh, I guess that's as close as we can get. But if you pay attention, you'll see what happens when things are moving, when the speedometer cable is moving. Okay, see that little arm there? This little one right here? As the red gear rotates, it's almost like a little clock mechanism there, but as it rotates, it increments a little ratchet. Okay, that's the trip odometer side. Let's take a look at the odometer side. It's going to be similar. Okay, the odometer side is going to be here. You see how that one's moving? Now the red gear that you see here is the red gear that operates the trip odometer, and the red gear on the other side is the one that operates the odometer. And that's how it works. So the spinning disc, the spinning cable turns a helical gear, a spiral gear, screw gear, whatever you want to call it, that worm gear, I think some people call them, that's going to make it go up to the mechanism that's going to increment these wheels. So let's take a break for a minute.